For the ruler carrier, you're going to need two pattern pieces, one for the carrier itself and one for the strap. The carrier is roughly 27 inches long by 16 inches. This distance right here is 3 1/4, and this distance is also 3 1/4 inches. For the strap, it's at 36 inches in length. Where it's going to join to the bag here is 2 inches, and where it joins here is 3 1/4 inches. The zipper will be placed right here, and this is actually going to be on fold, so this pattern is going to be traced and then opened up and traced again. So you want at least 1 inch of distance from the end on this side and this side for the zipper, and then you want to trace off a line that's 1/4 inch away from the edge. We want to make certain this opening, when we're completed, is 1/2 inch in width to accommodate the zipper and the zipper tape. The sample I am making is made from leather. I used 3-ounce leather for the outside. I also lined it. The lining is optional. I lined it in leather, and the lining leather is 2 ounces. You'll cut one piece from this on fold again. This is going to open up like that. Cut all the way around, and then cut the balance away for the zipper opening. You'll also need this piece used for the lining if you're going to use lining. Go ahead and use this pattern, eliminate the zipper opening, and then give yourself a 1/4 inch excess all the way around. So the seam allowance will come out an additional 1/4 inch here, 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 and along this edge as well. You'll need 2 of those pieces for the lining. You'll need 2 pieces for the strap. I like to cut what I consider the face side exact, and then I like to cut the lining, or the side that's not going to be as visible, a 1/4 inch larger all the way around. Sometimes when you cut leather, it's very challenging to get the edges to match up identically. So if you place them together, then stitch them, then you can trim away the excess and you get a much cleaner finish. So again, for this, you'll need 2 pieces cut, one exact and one 1/4 inch larger all the way around. When purchasing or preparing a zipper for this project, make certain that your zipper has tape that extends at least 1/2 inch beyond the opening here and here. Your teeth and your stops want to be right nested against the ends. If they're about 1/8 inch in, that's quite fine. But close to the ends is quite fine there. And then the same thing here. To install the zipper, place the carrier face down and tape along the edge of the zipper opening. This is a double-sided tape that will hold everything stable until it's been sewn. Go ahead and remove the protective film from the tape. When you're working, I find it easier to work from the face side and place the zipper underneath. Get better results that way. We want the stop at the bottom. We want the pull at the top. Right, so it's going to close at the top here. Just lightly put it into place. We can still adjust it as we move through. Keep it an equal distance from the edge of the teeth. And get toward the pull. Go ahead and move it out of the way. Get better success that way and better placement. Once that's down on that side, we'll go ahead and smash it down a little bit better, and then we'll work from the other side as well. When you get to the top where the zipper pull is going to rest, you can go ahead and let them flare a little bit toward the edges because it's going to flare anyway when it closes. Once you're happy with the placement, make certain it's adhered nicely, and if you're not going to place a lining, you're going to go ahead and sew all the way around. I like to start usually at close to one corner, but not on the corner, about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Sew down, pivot, come all the way around. If the zipper pull gets in your way, just zip it out of the way. Once you get to this point, move it out of the way again, pivot, and come back down and finish over here. You can back stitch, or you can leave the thread tails long enough so you can pull them to the back and then tie them. It gives a little bit cleaner finish on the face side, but either way will work. If you're going to place a lining, then do not sew this just yet. If placing a lining, do the same thing. We're going to prepare placement by putting a double-sided tape down to hold the lining in place as we sew. Do that on both edges of the zipper tape. And you're going to retrieve one of your lining pieces. Now, this is the wrong side. We want the face side down. It's going to get taped to that edge. Then we'll sew from the face side, and this will roll over and close that up nicely. Okay. Now remember, we left a seam allowance all the way around of a 1/4 inch in excess. So be mindful of that when you're placing. The edge right here can go ahead and place right at the edge of the tape, but make certain you leave a little bit of allowance at the bottom of the top. It should be about a 1/4 inch there. So I'm going to remove this piece of tape. Now remember, we're joining it to the upper edge or the edge furthest away from us, because we'll sew that side first and this will open up. Be careful that you don't join it like this on this side and then close that area. There we go. Once we've done that, we're going to turn this over, and the edge that I've just set, right, this edge here is going to now be the bottom edge here, and you're going to sew from one end 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. So we're going to start 1/8 of an inch outside because we want to eventually close this as well, but we're just going to sew from here 1/8 of an inch away all the way up to there 1/8 of an inch away. Do not close the box. Okay, we don't want to close here or here. We just want to sew those. You can backstitch here, you can backstitch here, or you can leave long thread tails, pull them to the back and tie them off. That'll give a cleaner finish, but either will work. You may have noticed when I was sewing that I pulled the thread tails up to the top when I first began. That's sometimes because the thread tails sometimes like to get caught up in the bottom. So once I've done that, I can still come through and pull those thread tails to the back. And then again, tie them off. Now this is going to fold to this side, like that. And before doing that, I like to also put a double-sided piece of tape right here to help anchor that so it stays in place. Once we've done that, we'll also tape along this edge and this edge to hold the lining in position. Put a little bit of tension on it. That'll definitely keep that away from the edge so that the zipper pull doesn't get captured. Go ahead, peel away the protective layer. Then working from the zipper area, smooth over toward the edge. Otherwise you'll get little ripples and bubbles. We'll complete the second side the same way we did the first. Remove that protective covering of the double-sided tape. Face down, place the lining leather, again allowing excess at both ends. Once you've got it placed, flip it over. We're going to do the same thing that we did for the first side. 1/8 beyond, we'll sew along the edge, and 1/8 beyond. Again, do not close the ends just yet. As we did for the first side, we're going to tape right along the edge here, and then we'll tape the perimeter as well. Remove the protective layer that's closest to the zipper, and then again, we're going to set that first. Now that this is set, we can go ahead and finish the ends. And at this point, if you want to, you can go ahead and stitch along this edge, here and here. You can close the whole thing up, or you can start from that point and stop at this point, bringing the thread tails to the back and tying them off again. Same thing here. You'll notice there's no lining right here, and there's no lining right here, but that's going to be imperceptible when we make the bag. You won't even notice it. You may have noticed on one end that I went to the end, then I pivoted and went back. The reason I did that is just to provide more stability on this end. On the other end, I just elected to start and stop. We'll do the same thing we did before. We'll go ahead and pull those thread tails to the back and tie them off to give a cleaner finish. In some circles, what they do, once they've trimmed the threads, they'll go ahead and melt them as well. I'm using a nylon thread. That's a 45 tex thread, so you can do that. And that will secure them a little bit more and make them a little less obvious. And we're ready for the next step. Once the lining is adhered to the outside of the carrier, go ahead and trim it to match all the way around. For the strap, the lining is cut ever so slightly larger, very much like we did on the lining portion of the carrier. So what's going to be perceived as the back of the strap, a 1/4 inch bigger all the way around, then tape inside of the seam allowance. Once it's placed, make certain it's adhered, and then sew the perimeter 1/8 of an inch all the way around from the edge. Then trim the excess away. Trim away the excess. Don't worry about the ends. If they're not as attractive as you'd like them to be, they're going to be inside of the portion of the carrier that is the bag. Now we're ready to attach the strap to the bag portion of the carrier. Tape all the way across the top here, close to the edge. And you're going to tape this edge, that edge, and this edge to this point. Don't tape this side just yet. Remove the protective layer from the adhesive. There's a straight edge, long straight edge of the strap. That's going to sit to the outside. This curved edge is going to sit to the inside. And then just place it about a 1/4 inch in on the carrier right there. Once that's in place, then you can go and roll this over to match, and you want to align those edges as cleanly as possible. Be careful that you don't stretch anything. Before we go much further, what we want to do is take the end of the strap, and join it here. Now be careful when you place the strap. You don't want it to have a twist in it, right? So you want to make sure it just rests in this contour like this. And it's just going to sit close to the edge. Again, about a 1/4 inch in from the edge. Since there's no tape to hold this, let's go ahead and tape the top of that right along that edge. And then continue your process of placing everything as carefully as possible. Once you're satisfied, either start from this point and sew around here, here, pivot, come up to here, and finish here, or start from this end and do the same thing. Once you've sewn that, then the bag is complete. Once you've completed the carrier, it's all nicely lined on the inside. It's ready to accommodate your square ruler, your variform curves, your hip curves, any kind of ruler that you have challenges carrying around. And it will also accommodate your pattern shears. Hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.